So, after the Democracy Day celebrations, the week opened with the Nigerian army urging remnants of Boko Haram terrorists to surrender and embrace peace. The GOC 7th Division, Brigadier General Otitoju, made this call at a feast organized for journalists by the army on Sunday in Maiduguri. That appeal may not have traveled very far, as over 30 people were killed in a Borno village on Sunday, necessitating a rare state visit by President Buhari to Borno, during which he stopped over at the Maimalari cantonment, where he interacted with troops of Operation Hadinkai. At Maimalari, President Buhari urged the Nigerian army not to give breathing space to terrorists and criminals. Still, on the contrary, again, it appears to be the case as the Shekau faction has regrouped, announcing the emergence of a new leader, Bakura Modu, within weeks after the demise of the dreaded leader, Abubakar Shekau. Now, how far can these government efforts go to calm frayed nerves? We ask this because parents are already unsettled, particularly in Kebbi State, because of the high rate of kidnapping. That will be one of our topics today, but we're going to start with another. It's a critical look at the whys as the World Bank identifies Nigeria's hyperinflation rate as the reason for criminality. Welcome to Issues with Jide. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. It's good to have you join us on our online interactive program. BKO is not joining me live in the studio today. He'll be joining me via Zoom. It's not the same, but I'd rather have our authentic and original Jide from afar off than not have him at all. Welcome, BKO, to the program. In 2019, the World Poverty Clock put the number of people living in extreme poverty in Nigeria at 77.9 million, or 39% of the population, while the country's total population stood at 199 million. By 2020, the number of persons living in extreme poverty had jumped to 84.8 million, representing 41% of the population. I'm citing that fact, to compare it side by side with the concern by the World Bank that inflation is fueling criminality. How do you reconcile this with the government's position during President Buhari's Democracy Day speech that it has lifted 10 million Nigerians out of poverty?
Situation that we are going through in our country, no one will believe that story emanating from the president, except of course those who put that speech together, or those who encourage him to say the things that he said. But Nigerians are going through a lot at this time. Insecurity will typically leads to high prices because many farmers can't go. So productivity will decline, and when productivity declines, prices, supply, it will negatively impact. When demand outstrips supply, it will negatively impact on prices. So that is the reason we have the inflation that we have at this time.
But BQ, two questions in one. Does it mean that the president is out of touch with reality and he just reads speeches and signs papers, or there's some other plausible explanation to, him believing that 10 million Nigerians have been lifted out of poverty? That's one. Two, BKO, how do we then move forward from this point? Does this administration require an overhaul of its economic team?
I think that the solution is defeating the insecurity that is ravaging our country, because we've never had it this bad. And I believe that where security becomes a problem, production, if not curtailed, will become expensive. And once the cost of production goes up, then it will impact on prices. And that is the biggest trigger for inflation, especially the kind of inflation that we are going through at this time. There is no other way to deal with this problem beyond simply defeating the bandits who are holding our nation by the jugular. I'm ashamed as a Nigerian that bandits continue to roam the streets of our villages, of our towns, chase people out of their homes, burn people's buildings, steal people's cattle, steal people's grains, and generally spreading hunger in the land. We just have to do a better job of securing our country. This is the challenge that the president has, and I've said it before that even if he builds houses in the sky for Nigerians, it is this insecurity that will inexorably define his presidency. And I don't know, it appears that many people in the presidency do not seem to get it. You can deliver infrastructure as much as you want. But the biggest problem facing Nigeria as a country at this time is insecurity. We are approaching the level of a failed state. So many of our communities, there is no sign of civil authority taking place because bandits and Boko Haram are running riot. So we've got to defend our communities. We've got to give confidence to farmers and other people to go and produce, so that by producing on a massive scale, we can drive down prices. We will not be able to drive down prices if insecurity continues on the scale that we are seeing.
And so the administration takes pride in its social investment program. Perhaps that's what causes it to beat its chest to say it has lifted 10 million Nigerians out of poverty. So, Jide, in essence, what you're saying is if insecurity is not tackled decisively, even the social investment program, the trader money program, the free school feeding program would not fulfill its purpose.
The CBN governor has already spoken on that. I don't want to repeat all of what he has said. Look, the Anchor Brewers program is a good program designed to help our farmers tremendously. But it is a program that is at risk because of the activities of bandits. In fact, the CBN governor was appealing to bandits a few weeks ago to stop harassing farmers, to even take the opportunity of the presence of some money that the CBN can provide for the bandits as well. You know, I was wondering if the CBN governor was misquoted, but even if he was misquoted, it speaks to the extreme situation that we are faced, that the CBN governor, who should not have anything to do with bandits, is the one begging them, appealing to them to stop to stop attacking our people, and to stop attacking farmers and putting the expensively put together anchor brewers program at tremendous risk. So this is what we face. This is what we face. People's lives are much more important to them than anything. You do not expect foreign direct investment to come in on a massive scale when the country is unsafe. You do not expect farmers to risk their lives to go and till the land to cultivate and produce when they know that every time they are going to their farms, they
Their lives
stand
are at
the
risk.
risk of not returning home in one piece. So this is the problem.
And so the appeals to bandits and terrorists are falling on deaf ears as Federal Government College, Kebbi, suffered a deadly fate with the abduction of over 30 students. And you said it only last week or two on the platform, on this platform rather, so we don't confuse our viewers. That's Issues with Jide, that Kebbi is going from bad to worse. Now the situation is deteriorating as far as insecurity is concerned in Kebbi State. How come more than 30 students were kidnapped? It only goes to show that they had a lot of time, you know, for this operation. Jide?
I don't want to say the situation is getting worse. I think that sometimes it makes sense to simply offer hope to our people. But what I can say is that we are not doing enough. That is a fact. If there are measures being taken, because the president boasted the other day that Nigerians will begin to see signs that the government is on top of the situation. And I said, do not boast. Mr. President, I'm not interested in you boasting. Just show us action. Let us see the steps that you are taking. Let's see in concrete terms how you are addressing the problem of insecurity in our country. Action speaks louder than words. People are not interested in simply being fed with the government's plans, the government's willingness to make great things happen and all that. They simply want to see good things happen. In the area of security, they simply want to see our schools protected better. I've said before that, look, without the famous 3 C's that great great nations noted for their powerful militaries have adopted, we cannot win the war against insecurity. We can't win the war against terror. And the 3 C's are cooperation, coordination, communication, and early warning through the drones. The world now uses drones that are solar powered, drones that can hang in the air for as many as 36 hours. And there are some that can hang in the air for over a month. Piecing up information about bad people, about bandits, about terrorists. That is an area where we have failed spectacularly. We need to be able to track the movement of bandits. These bandits went to that school, about 200 of them. How do up to 200 people move on motorbikes? And they are not, we can't sight them. What's going on? We should be able to cite them, track their movement, stop them from carrying out those activities. Stop them from kidnapping these kids. I mean, this is a unity school, for God's sake. Children from different parts of our country. Now, they came into the school. I've spoken about the need to secure the borders between states that are busting at the seams with bandits and states that are not really facing such problems. Because when you attack bandits in one state, they easily move into states that are contiguous. So this is what we are facing. Bandits in Niger State, in the Rijau area of Niger State, we have many bandits. Kebbi had been peaceful all along, but suddenly bandits are moving in from Rijau local government in Niger State into Kebbi to Yauri. Yauri is less than 50 kilometers to Rijau, that is noted for its high population of bandits. So they moved into that place and kidnapped children. And after the children were kidnapped, we then moved into action. Reconnaissance aircraft doing their sorties over the area. This is not what I want to see. I want a situation in which those airplanes do not even allow this kind of aberrant behavior by bandits to happen in the first place. Once they take those kids away, it's extremely difficult to take them back. And nobody wants to see those children killed.
True.
We've been able to rescue by.
Land on your point.
Yes, I said, yes, we've rescued 5 of those kids. 1 is dead, but there are still several of those kids in their custody. What do we do about this kind of situation? If we launch a military action to take those kids, to rescue those kids, so many of them will be dead, and people will blame the armed forces. So the best thing is to not let this happen. Protect our schools better. Otherwise, people will not feel like going to school. You saw the video emanating from that school. The kids were running in different directions on the day of this attack. We've had bandits launch 13 attacks, 13 major attacks on schools in our country between 2014 and now, involving hundreds of school children. We still have more than 100 Chibok girls in the custody of Boko Haram. We still have up to 100 that we have not succeeded in securing their release. So it's painful. Nobody, now at this time, about 150 students that were kidnapped in Tegina, Niger State, they are still in the hands of these bandits. And then we allow this to happen. I mean, we simply cannot give up. We can't give up. We can't give up at all to terrorists and bandits. Yeah. We can't give up.
You can say that again. As much as you started off, responding to this last bit of the concern that you want to offer hope to our people, your explanations and the facts that you have spewed have only depicted the stark reality of what is happening. And that's why my next question is about the ricochet effect of kidnapping in Nigeria's north, not just the northeast now, not just the northwest, the entire north. The report from Kebbi has it that some parents have begun to withdraw their children from school. I can imagine what's happening in other parts of the north. In Kaduna, for instance, where they only just got some more pupils, students rather, released. BK, what's going to happen to the education system in Nigeria's north? For instance, the calendar this year for the secondary education system, for the tertiary education system. What's the overall implication for learning in Nigeria's north?
You know, the big problem is that more and more people would not feel the need to go to school. More and more parents need to be convinced that, look, at this time, let those children go to school. Parents need a lot of convincing, especially in northern Nigeria, because they've seen clearly that their children cannot be protected against the activities of bandits. So how do you, in a place where we're already experiencing low enrollment into schools, this sort of things shouldn't be happening. I suggested during one of our webinars recently that, look, the solution to this, the interim solution, is to relocate schools to safer areas. If we had done that before Boko Haram attacked Chibok, but we did not relocate that school. And we took a very bad decision to
okay, he's back.
Not to let go ahead with the examination. We took a bad decision to let that WAEC examination go ahead at that location. And then Boko Haram came, took those children away. Now, we have the same problem in Kebbi State. Borno State, the epicenter of the Boko Haram campaign of bloodletting, has already relocated children from unsafe areas. You now have mega schools, big schools, some of them looking like universities, looking like some of our best universities in terms of even the quality of the buildings. We now have them in the state capital. There is a unity school, Federal Government Girls College, Monguno. They relocated the school from Monguno, the garrison town of the Nigerian army, to the state capital. They were not going to take that risk that, oh, there is a military formation right there. What if that military formation gets overrun? And we've seen military formations overrun in our country so many times. So we have that school. The school now relocated to Maiduguri, and they are now making use of the Muhammadu Buhari Academy. That, in my view, is one good way to handle this situation. I know that it's impossible
schools to
safe armed men,
safe areas. All right, BKO, we wanted to create time for questions from your online audience.
Solution, but it's just an interim solution. You can't keep, if a school is so far flung from the state capital and you can't guarantee the safety, you must relocate. Yeah. This is my view. You must relocate.
Yeah. Okay, so BK, let's take questions from your online audience now as we coast home. Samuel Elijah is asking, what can we do as a country to come out of insecurity which has brought our country to its knees?
At this time, we need to start recruiting massively into the armed forces. There are so many young people out there prepared to serve their country. Recruit them For years, we didn't think it was necessary to recruit into the armed forces. Now it's biting us badly. That bad decision to not recruit consistently into the armed forces is biting us badly at this time. In Zamfara, the armed forces are terribly outnumbered by bandits. Everywhere we do not have enough troops on ground to protect our people. If we can increase significantly the number of soldiers, the number of civil defense men and women, the number of airmen, the Air Force, the number of police personnel, if we can increase them, that will help. I can see governors asking for so number of troops in this place and that place. Those troops may never be provided because Nigerian army is already overstretched. They are providing security in at least 31 or 32 states, significantly providing security in at least 31 or 32 over 36 states. So you may not be able to get enough. We have to bring in people into the armed forces. We have to provide weapons, grade A weapons for the armed forces. Then we need to go for state police. And state police, whether in form of Amotekun or whatever, they must be armed. When I'm saying they must be armed, I'm not saying necessarily they must be given an Uzi, the Israeli gun, or an AK-47 or AK-49. There are guns that can be provided that look similar to hunting guns, but are more sophisticated than hunting guns. We need to import, governors must come together, import such guns, and provide for the state-owned security outfits that we are beginning to see. That way, they will be able to complement the efforts of the armed forces, and they will also be able to stand up to some of these bad people when they come. A situation in which you give a damn gun to an Amotekun operative, how does it confront people who are armed with AK-47s and AK-49 or even GPMG?
Absolutely.
So we made mistakes in the past by not consistently recruiting to the armed forces. We deluded ourselves that, look, we are surrounded by peaceful nations, therefore we are not a country at war, we are at peace, with ourselves and with our neighbors. We never envisaged that this kind of challenge will come. So an unthinking nation should be ready to bear the consequences of the lack of foresight of its leaders. Our leaders simply focused on other things. Now look at where we are. We are now confronted with the stark reality of the inability of our armed forces to protect us as a people. And it's extremely bad. It's one of the reasons people are relocating from our country.
And many more are finding ways of carrying out that relocation. Canada is
trending among Nigerian youths. But that's not the next question, BKO. We have a question from Akonde, from Aminu Mohammed. So which one should we take now? Okay, from Akonde Joshua. Akonde Joshua is asking, BKO, can government purchase the drone for security surveillance?
Yes. The problem is, I expect the states to be able to buy drones and use to complement the work of the police. But we have a situation in which before you can be allowed to import and use unmanned area vehicles, you must get the all clear from the National Security Advisor. Now, people on social media and other places accuse governors of not doing enough to protect their states. A governor cannot even buy drones to survey his state. All powers are literally concentrated in federal authorities and the president when it comes to security. Governors cannot deploy troops. When troops are needed, you need 300, you need 400, you cannot, you do not have the power to deploy. All the armed forces are not under your control. Yet we blame the governors, oh, they are collecting security votes, what are they doing with it? They are using security votes to equip the police. Governors have equipped the police several times more than the federal government has done. Every state is buying Hilux vans for the police, buying kits for them. We saw what the Lagos State government presented the other day. We saw the Imo State governor, 80 Hilux vans in one day. Yet, all of this may not be sufficient to save those states from the violence emanating from bandits, because they do not have the power to deploy troops, they do not control the police, they do not control the armed forces, generally. I will give an example. There was a time during the lockdown when the governor of River State was literally running riot, arresting people on the streets, even pregnant women. What did the IG do? The then IG ordered all policemen on the task force of River State to withdraw. They withdrew. They withdrew. And we can stop parading the streets. They stopped parading immediately. That order was given, because without the police, he cannot pound the streets the way he was doing. Immediately, the policemen were withdrawn. He stopped his daily run around, monitoring the observance of the curfew. He stopped. He simply stayed inside his government house. This is the point that we are making. It took just an instruction from the IG for a state governor to know who really is in charge, or who really was in charge. So that's the point. Especially because he was also attacking policemen and others, so they needed to show him that, look, they talk too much, but let me show you a sample now. So he stopped immediately. He stopped going around and supervising the curfew in the state.
All right, BK, we could go on, and there's so many more questions to be asked, particularly as it bothers on providing security for children in schools, which is, a sticking point in this conversation that we've had today. Particularly, what happened to, the safe school funding provided. Yeah.
So that
for instance, the safe school
funding. Some of the concerns of people about the safety of our schools. I think we will be able to do that some other time, because it's a running story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That will be it on the program today. Thank you very much, particularly to viewers online who were able to send in their questions. We apologize for not taking all the questions that came in today. We'll accommodate more questions from others who are participating same time next week. So join us again, but don't forget, before you exit your YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Our YouTube account is TVC News Nigeria. You can also follow us online on all our social media accounts. We're at TVC News NG. Hopefully, BK will be back and will be live in the studio next week. If not, of course, we'll still have BKO as genuine and as authentic from any part of the world, connecting to Issues with Jide online. On behalf of the entire production crew, I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.